The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was a place where the fate of worlds was decided. It was a place of shining walls, tall alien statues, and cold light that never seemed warm. In the center of the hall, a circle of powerful alien leaders sat high above everyone else. Each wore the colors of their species, each holding the power to shape the future of the galaxy. At the center of the floor stood one human, Ambassador Elias Kane. His face was calm, but his eyes burned like hidden fire. Behind him, a large screen showed Earth's blue oceans and green lands. Around him, alien guards with strange weapons stood ready. The head of the council, a tall, silver-skinned alien named Varith, spoke in a voice that was smooth and cold. Humanity, Varith said, has broken the laws of the galaxy. You have taken planets without permission. You have mined worlds that were under protection. You have refused our orders. For this, you are exiled. You have 30 days to leave council space or face destruction. The hall was silent for a moment. The words hung heavy in the air. The other alien leaders watched, some with satisfaction, some with worry. Kane slowly looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of each council member. We defended ourselves, he said. His voice was calm, steady. We built our worlds without asking for your help. We made our own way. And for this, you call us criminals. Varith's silver eyes narrowed. You are dangerous, unpredictable. You will bring chaos to the galaxy. Kane's lips curved into a small, cold smile. Perhaps chaos is exactly what you fear. The council members murmured among themselves, their voices echoing. But Varith raised a hand, and the noise stopped. The decision is final. Leave or die. Kane stood straight, his hands behind his back. Then we will leave, he said. His voice carried through the hall. But remember this day. Remember that it was you who opened the door. And when the day comes that you hear us knocking, it will be too late to close it. With that, he turned and walked out. The guards did not stop him. Outside the hall, the human delegation moved quickly through the alien city. Strange towers of glass and stone rose into the clouds. Alien ships hummed overhead. The city's people watched the humans pass, some with pity, some with curiosity, some with fear. Kane stepped into the human shuttle and sat in silence as the doors closed. His second in command, Captain Mara Holt, looked at him. So, that's it. They throw us out and we just leave. Kane's eyes stayed on the window as the shuttle lifted into the sky. We will leave, he said, but we will not vanish. 30 days later, the human fleet assembled in the Sol system. Hundreds of ships, some old, some new, some still smelling of fresh metal, floated in formation near Mars. Cargo vessels were filled with food, water, tools, and strange artifacts from alien worlds. Warships stood guard, their cannons ready. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Captain Holt watched the last civilian transports dock with the fleet. All ships accounted for, she reported. Kane stood beside her, hands clasped behind his back. Set course for the Black Reaches, he said. The helmsman froze. Sir, the Black Reaches are uncharted. No one returns from there. Kane's voice was calm. Then we will be the first. The fleet began to move, engines flaring bright. Behind them, Earth's blue glow faded. Ahead, the darkness of unexplored space waited. In the cargo hold of the Resolute, a strange, black ship sat hidden beneath heavy shields. It had no markings, no windows. It pulsed faintly with light, like a heartbeat. Only Kane and a handful of others knew what it was and what it could do. As the fleet crossed the border of council space, alien patrols watched from a distance. One alien officer laughed. Let them go, he said to his crew. They will not survive a month out there. But far from the patrols, in the depths of the void, something ancient stirred. A shadow moved between the stars, and it was watching. The humans, on the Resolute, Captain Holt studied the endless black ahead. Sir, she said quietly, do you really think we can survive without the Council's help? Kane looked at her, and his eyes were sharp, like steel. We will not only survive, he said. We will grow, we will build, and one day, they will beg us to return. The comms officer interrupted. Captain, we're picking up a signal. Very faint, almost like human speech. Everyone turned. From where? Holt asked. The officer shook his head. It's coming from deep inside the black reaches. Kane smiled for the first time in days. Then that, he said, is where we begin. The black reaches swallowed the fleet like an endless ocean of darkness. There were no stars here, no bright beacons of safety, only scattered shadows and strange shapes that drifted far away, too far to know if they were real or tricks of the mind. The human ships moved in tight formation, their lights cutting thin lines through the void. Captain Mara Holt stood at the bridge window of the Resolute. Her eyes traced the strange, mist-like clouds ahead. They glowed faintly, as if something deep inside them was alive. Anything on scans? She asked. The sensor officer shook his head. Nothing solid. No ships, no planets, just the fog. Ambassador Kane stepped forward. Keep moving. And stay sharp. This region kills the careless. For days, the fleet pushed deeper. Supplies were rationed carefully. Engineers worked in silence, keeping the engines running at peak efficiency. The crew spoke in hushed voices, as if afraid their words might wake something sleeping in the dark. On the fourth day, the signal returned. It was clearer now, a soft voice repeating a simple phrase over and over. "We wait for you, Origin." Holt asked. The comms officer frowned. Somewhere ahead, could be a planet or a ship. The words echoed in Kane's mind. "We wait for you. Not we found you. Not stay away." It was an invitation. "Follow it," Kane ordered. The fleet adjusted course. Hours later, shapes began to form in the mist, tall spires of black stone, rising like broken teeth from the surface of a planet. Lightning flashed between them, but the light was silent, as if the storms made no sound. The planet below was scarred and lifeless. Cracks spread across its crust, glowing faintly as if molten rivers ran deep beneath. The voice grew stronger, clearer. Now it said something more. "Come and claim what is yours." Landing parties were prepared. Kane himself boarded a shuttle with Holt and a squad of soldiers. As the shuttle descended, the black spires seemed to move, twisting slightly as if watching their approach. Holt gripped her rifle tighter. "I don't like this," she whispered. The landing zone was an open plaza made of smooth, black stone. The air was thin but breathable. Strange symbols were carved into the ground, glowing faintly under their feet. A deep hum rose from the ground. The voice returned, but now it spoke in perfect English. "You were cast out." "So were we." Everyone froze. "Who's speaking?" Kane demanded, scanning the area. The answer came not from the air, but from the largest spire. A seam appeared in its surface, opening like a doorway. Inside was darkness, broken only by pulsing lights and patterns too fast to follow. Kane stepped forward. Holt caught his arm. "Sir." He shook his head. "If it wanted us dead, we'd already be gone." Inside the spire, the walls were smooth and cold, covered in more glowing symbols. At the center was a shape, a vessel, small but sleek, its surface alive with shifting colors. "We were the first rulers of the stars," the voice said. "The council feared us. They destroyed our worlds and buried our name. You are like us, refused, hunted, strong." Kane circled the vessel. "And you want to help us. We want to see them fall." The voice replied, "You will carry our weapons. You will carry our memory." The vessel's surface shifted, revealing rows of weapons unlike anything Kane had seen. Long, sharp devices that seemed to bend light itself, and small, floating drones that hummed with energy. Holt's voice was tense. "This tech, it's beyond anything the council has." Kane touched the vessel. "It's ours now." The voice gave a final warning. "Power changes those who hold it. Do not become the thing you fight." Back aboard the Resolute, the alien vessel was brought into a secure bay. Engineers and scientists swarmed over it, their eyes wide with wonder. Within hours, they had adapted some of its systems to human warships. In the weeks that followed, the fleet changed. The ships grew faster, shields became stronger, weapons could cut through the thickest armor. The humans had been exiles, but now they were something else entirely. But the black reaches were not done with them. One night, alarms blared. Holt rushed to the bridge. "What is it?" The sensor officer's face was pale. "Something's out there. Big, moving fast." Through the fog, a shadow emerged. It was massive, shaped like a great winged beast. its surface covered in glowing cracks. Its eyes burned like two small suns. It stopped just short of the fleet. Watching in silence, the calm's officer's voice trembled. It's broadcasting. The voice was deep. Ancient, leave this place, or be devoured. The bridge fell silent. Kane stepped forward, his voice steady. Tell it, we are not prey. The creature's eyes narrowed, and then it was gone, vanishing into the mist as if it had never been there. Holt turned to Kane. Sir, whatever that was, it will be back. Kane nodded slowly. Then we'll be ready, and when it comes, we'll see who devours who. The fleet moved on deeper into the black reaches, their new weapons gleaming in the dark. Somewhere ahead, more secrets waited, and somewhere far behind, in the safety of their grand hall, the council still believed humanity was gone. They had no idea what was coming. The black reaches had changed the human fleet. Ships that once looked ordinary now carried an edge of menace. New armor that shimmered like liquid metal, weapons that whispered with unseen power. Every hull seemed to hum with the promise of violence, but Kane knew power meant nothing unless it was used. The council still ruled the rest of the galaxy, smug in their belief that the dangerous little humans were gone forever. It was time to remind them they were wrong. A smuggler's route through abandoned trade lanes brought the fleet close to council territory. The system ahead was quiet, home to a single mining station. That station also served as a relay hub for the council's patrols, the perfect place to send a message on the Resolute's bridge. Captain Holt watched the target drift in the distance. No defenses worth noting, just a few drones and some old turrets. Kane's gaze was fixed on the starfield. They'll notice when it goes dark, and they'll wonder who did it. The order went out. The first shot came from one of the newly armed destroyers, a beam of pure, bending light carved through the mining station's communication tower. In seconds, its lights flickered and died. Not a single shot was fired back. The comms officer grinned. They didn't even know we were here. Kane leaned forward. Send it now. A signal pulsed from the fleet, short, encrypted, and unmistakably human. The message was simple. We are still here. It would spread fast. Traders would whisper it in shadowed cantinas. Patrol captains would send it in urgent reports. And somewhere, in the shining halls of the Galactic Council, someone would feel the first spark of fear. That spark came sooner than Kane expected. 2 days later, a council patrol entered the system. 3 warships, newer than most. They carried the blue and silver crest of the outer defense. They moved with slow, cautious precision, scanning the dark. On the Resolute, Holt reported, they're trying to find us without revealing they're looking. Orders, let them find us, Kane said. The trap was set. A single human frigate drifted alone near the system's asteroid belt. It kept its engines cold, like an easy target waiting to be claimed. The patrol ships closed in, their formation tight. As they prepared to lock weapons, the frigate's armor rippled and vanished, revealing the alien tech beneath. The first shot came not from the humans, but from the council. Bright streaks of plasma that slammed into shimmering shields and vanished without effect. The frigate answered with silence. It launched a cloud of drones that swarmed forward, darting. Like insects, the drones cut through the enemy's engines with surgical precision, leaving the ships dead in space. Not a single life was lost, but the humiliation was complete. From the bridge of the Resolute, Kane transmitted on open channels. Tell your council, he said, that the Exiles have teeth. The patrol ships, powerless and adrift, could only watch as the human fleet vanished into the void. Back in the black reaches, repairs and upgrades continued at a feverish pace. The alien vessel they had found, now called the Gift, revealed more secrets each day. Its weapons adapted to the target they struck, growing deadlier with every battle. Its data stores held maps of forgotten routes and hidden worlds, some untouched for centuries. But the Gift also brought questions. The voice that had spoken to Kane in the spire had not returned, and some of the scientists reported strange phenomena. Tools moving on their own, lights flickering in patterns that almost looked like language. Holt didn't trust it. It's like it's watching us, she said one evening. It's more than watching. Kane replied, it's learning. Word of the patrol incident had reached the council. Their response came not in words, but in action, fleets shifting closer to the border. Secret intelligence teams sent to learn the humans' location. The game was moving faster now. One night, as the fleet refueled near a drifting moon, the Resolute's sensors picked up a ghost. A signal, faint but familiar, from a human colony lost decades ago during the first expansion. Holt stared at the readings. That's impossible. The Council said it was destroyed by pirates. Kane's voice was quiet. Then either they lied, or something survived. The fleet changed course, through twisting, unmapped corridors of space. They followed the trail. The colony was hidden in the shadow of a dying star, its light barely enough to touch the broken ground. But the settlement below was alive. Thousands of humans walked its streets. Old ships, patched and worn, stood in silent guard. And at the center of it all was a flag, Earth's flag. Though faded and torn, Kane stepped onto the dusty soil. The colony's leader, a woman with sharp eyes and a rifle slung across her back, greeted him with a single line. "Took you long enough." In that moment, Kane understood something. They weren't just exiles building a new home. They were part of something bigger, a scattered people who had been surviving, fighting, waiting. And now, they were no longer alone. When the fleet departed, the colony came with them. More ships, more hands, more stories of Council betrayal. The human armada was growing. Far away, in the Council's shining hall, Varith read the latest report. Patrols destroyed without casualties, lost colonies reappearing, rumors of strange, unstoppable weapons. For the first time in centuries, the Council leader felt something unfamiliar. It was not anger. It was not annoyance. It was fear. And fear, Kane knew, was the beginning of the end. The message was no longer whispers in dark cantinas. It was a roar. Every trade lane, every station, every dusty port at the edge of civilization was alive with the same story. The humans were back, and they were no longer the fragile species the Council had cast out. Kane chose the target carefully. Not a warship, not a backwater mine, but a border world with a full garrison and a Council governor. It wasn't about destruction. It was about being seen. The human fleet emerged from the black reaches without warning, silent against the backdrop of a yellow sun. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation, their armor rippling with shifting light. To the orbital defenses, they looked like a wall of shadows swallowing the sky. On the bridge of the Resolute, Holt watched the planet grow larger on the screen. "Their garrison will respond fast. They'll respond," Kane said, "but not the way they expect." As predicted, the Council's defense fleet scrambled. A dozen cruisers moving in to intercept. Their commander sent a hail, his voice sharp and controlled. "Unknown fleet. Identify yourselves or you will be fired upon." Kane answered with a calm smile. "This is Ambassador Elias Kane of the Terran Fleet. We've come to collect what is ours." The commander's face tightened. Humanity was exiled. This is a violation of the line cut. No warning, no sound, just static. Instead of firing, the human ships shifted. The alien weapons Kane had taken from the black reaches came alive, not in blasts or beams, but in a web of light that spread across the enemy's hulls. One by one, the Council cruisers lost power, their engines dimming, their weapons going cold. No explosions, no deaths, just silence. Kane transmitted to the planet's surface. "Governor Halris, you are holding 3,000 human citizens taken from our colonies. Release them now." The governor's voice came back, high with panic. "They are political detainees. I can't." "You can," Kane interrupted, "and you will. Your defenses will not return until they are aboard my ships." Minutes passed like hours. The orbital view showed the Council fleet drifting helplessly while human transports descended. On the ground, guards stood frozen as the prisoners, some in chains, some barely able to walk, were led out of holding blocks and onto waiting shuttles. When the last prisoner stepped aboard, the governor sent a final message. "Take them and leave." Kane's voice was steel. "We will leave. But remember, Governor, we didn't come here to conquer. We came to collect. Next time, it may not be so simple." The fleet withdrew without a single casualty. The prisoners, weak and worn, stared wide-eyed at the strange new ships around them. They were fed, given clean clothes, and told where they were going. Many wept when they heard the words, "We are going home." But the home they spoke of was no longer just Earth. It was the growing network of human worlds. Colonies and fleets united under one purpose: survival through strength. The Council's reaction was immediate. Emergency meetings were called. Fleets were moved. Trade restrictions were tightened on any world suspected of aiding humans. But for every rule they enforced, another species began to question why they followed the Council at all. Some of those questions reached Kane. Messages from alien captains offering supplies. Colonies asking for protection in exchange for allegiance. Kane did not refuse them. 2 weeks later, the Terran fleet returned again, this time to a different border world. But they didn't come to take. They came to give. They destroyed a pirate fleet that had been raiding the system for years, something the Council had promised to do but never did. The people cheered as human ships left supplies and medics before vanishing back into the void. The Council's propaganda machine worked overtime. They called the humans dangerous, unstable, a threat to order, but the images of freed prisoners and grateful colonies told a different story. On the Resolute, Holt watched the incoming intelligence reports. Every time we appear, we're not just winning battles, we're winning minds. That's the point, Kane said. Fear breaks armies, hope breaks empires. In the quiet hours between missions, the alien vessel they had named the Gift began to change again. New panels unfolded. Maps appeared, showing routes deep into the Council's core worlds. Paths no human ship had ever seen. When Kane asked it why, the voice returned for the first time since the Black Spire. Because you are ready. The next target would not be a border world. It would be the heart of Council space. A single strike, not to destroy, but to show them something they could not ignore, that the humans they had cast out had returned to stand at their gates. Plans were drawn. Crews prepared. The fleet moved quietly, cutting through hidden corridors of space. Every ship carried the same unspoken thought. The exile was over. And when the fleet finally emerged from the shadows, the lights of the Council's capital world filled their view, a shining jewel of towers and ships, guarded by the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. For a moment, the bridge of the Resolute was silent. Even Holt's hands tightened on the rail. If this goes wrong, she began. Kane didn't look away from the screen. It won't. They've forgotten what it means to be afraid. We're going to remind them. The Council's capital floated before them like a jewel in the dark, wrapped in rings of silver stations and guarded by fleets that blotted out the stars. Every warship was a masterpiece of alien engineering. Rows of gleaming weapons pointed outward in a constant promise of death. The Terran fleet moved slowly from the shadow of a distant moon, hulls dark to blend with the void. On the Resolute, Holt's hands moved over the console with practiced calm, but her voice was tight. That's the largest concentration of firepower in the galaxy. If they so much as sneeze in our direction, they won't, Kane said. Not until they understand what's happening. The plan was not to destroy the capital. That would turn every neutral species against them. This was about something more dangerous than destruction. This was about breaking the illusion of the Council's invincibility. The fleet split into 5 groups. 3 moved toward the outer defense ring. 2 others sank into the shadows between moons, carrying something the Council had never seen. The first strike came without sound. A wave of light shimmered across the defensive satellites. Their targeting systems went blind. Patrol captains shouted orders, trying to recalibrate. But the alien tech from the Gift wrapped every sensor in lies. Ships saw enemies where there were none, fired at empty space, and left their true flanks exposed. Council cruisers scrambled to respond, their formations tightening. But the humans didn't engage them directly. Instead, the hidden strike groups deployed swarms of drones, thousands of them, no bigger than a man's arm, weaving through the chaos like a living storm. They cut power lines, scrambled communications, and in one case simply broadcast the human message across every open channel. We are still here. Down on the capital's surface, people looked up at the night sky and saw the defense grid flicker like dying stars. News feeds switched from official propaganda to raw, unfiltered images of Terran ships moving through their defenses untouched. The Council's high command met in their grand chamber, voices sharp and urgent. Varith himself watched the footage. In silence, He had expected a direct assault. He had prepared for that. But this was something else. Back in orbit, one of the Council's dreadnoughts finally cornered a Terran frigate. The dreadnought was a city in space, bristling with weapons, but as it fired, the frigate's armor rippled and swallowed the blast. A heartbeat later, the frigate's hull unfolded, revealing a weapon that bent light around itself before releasing a single, silent beam. The dreadnought's shields collapsed, its engines stuttered, and then it drifted, powerless but intact. No one had died, but the message was clear. Even the Council's strongest ship could be rendered helpless in seconds. Kane's voice carried across every Council frequency. You exiled us because you feared what we might become. Now you see what we are. The fleet did not linger. They did not conquer. They left as quickly as they had come, vanishing into the labyrinth of space, leaving the Council to deal with the shame of a defense grid breach without a single loss on either side. But the humiliation was only the spark. Within days, skirmishes erupted on the Council's outer worlds. Species long ignored by the central government saw an opportunity and began resisting taxes, refusing orders, even requesting Terran assistance. Kane was careful. They would not become an empire of conquerors. They would become the knife that cut the Council's control apart piece by piece. The Council responded with force. Patrol fleets pushed into the border systems, determined to find and destroy the Terran fleet. This time, Kane did not hide. He chose a system near the Black Reaches as the battleground, a graveyard of shattered moons and drifting asteroids. The terrain was chaos, perfect for the kind of war humans fought best. When the Council fleet arrived, the humans were already moving. Ships darted in and out of cover, striking with precision before vanishing behind rock and shadow. The alien tech adapted in real time, adjusting shields to counter each enemy's weapon output. Council ships found their own targeting systems turning against them, firing at allies they thought were foes. Holt directed the chaos like an artist painting. In fire, Group 3 cut across their flank. Group 5 bait them toward the debris field. The debris field was a trap. Hidden inside the wreckage were magnetic mines that latched onto enemy hulls and drained their energy in seconds. In less than an hour, half the Council fleet was disabled. The rest in full retreat. Kane did not pursue. He let them run, because the sight of their strongest ships limping home would spread more fear than their destruction ever could. When the battle was over, the humans salvaged what they could: weapons, fuel, and most importantly, data. The Council's fleet movements, supply lines, and communication relays were now in Terran hands. In the quiet aftermath, Kane stood on the Resolute's observation deck, watching the broken hulks drift. Holt joined him. They'll be back, she said. They'll always be back, Kane replied. But every time they come, we'll take something from them, and one day, there won't be anything left to take. Far away, in the Council's heart, Varith stared at the growing list of defeats. It wasn't just the humans anymore. Rebellions were spreading, small at first, then louder, hungrier. The exile that was meant to erase humanity had instead given them the one thing no empire could kill: a reason to fight. And the war had only just begun. The Council's Grand Hall no longer echoed with the calm authority it once held. It was chaos now. Voices overlapping, claws tapping against polished stone, the air thick with the scent of fear. Governors shouted for more fleets. Admirals argued over lost ships. Merchants demanded protection for their trade routes. Varith sat at the center, unmoving. His silver eyes swept over the chamber. But he did not need to speak to feel the truth pressing in on him. The Terrans were winning, not through brute force, but through something far more dangerous. They were unmaking the Council's order from the inside. Reports piled on his desk like accusations. Border worlds refusing taxes. Patrol fleets refusing orders, entire sectors whispering of independence. And always, at the root of it, was the same rumor: the humans were offering protection where the Council had failed. Far from the capital, the Terran fleet moved without pause. They no longer struck at random. Every action was chosen to feed the fractures in the Council's control. A corrupt governor replaced by a local leader loyal to the Terrans. A blockade broken so medicine could reach a starving colony. A pirate fleet destroyed in Council space. with the Council fleet arriving just late enough to look useless. On the Resolute, Holt studied the star map glowing over the table. Entire sectors shimmered with faint blue, marking worlds that had either allied with humanity or quietly accepted their help. "We're not just winning battles," she said. "We're rewriting the map." Kane didn't smile, but there was a light in his eyes. The Council is an empire that pretends it isn't. If you take away its ability to protect and control, what's left? The answer came a week later. A convoy of Council ships defected, 30 vessels, their captains, broadcasting a simple message across every frequency: "We choose freedom." Kane welcomed them into the fleet, but he knew what this meant. The Council could not ignore such open rebellion. They would respond with everything they had left. And they did. The largest Council armada in a century gathered near the central trade spine. Hundreds of warships, carriers, and support vessels, all converging on one purpose: the destruction of the Terran fleet. Kane let them gather, let them feel strong. Then he struck. The battle was not fought in deep space, but in orbit of one of the Council's own strongholds, a fortress world, bristling with weapons. The Terran fleet didn't challenge the armada head-on. Instead, they seeded the space around the planet with devices from the Gift, invisible to sensors. They clung to enemy hulls and turned every system into a liar. Ships fired at false targets. Fighters were sent chasing phantom squadrons. Carriers launched their entire complement, only to realize their hangars had been sabotaged to collapse under their own weight. Holt coordinated the chaos from the Resolute, her voice sharp over the comms. "They're breaking formation. Group 4, cut the center. Group 7, peel off their carriers." Within hours, the largest armada in living memory was a scattering of crippled ships and frantic calls for retreat. The fortress world, untouched by human fire, opened its gates to the Terrans. The local defense commander, a grizzled alien with tired eyes, simply said, "We've been waiting for someone to stand against them." News of the victory traveled faster than any ship. It lit fires across the galaxy. Entire sectors began to declare independence. Trade guilds switched allegiances. Worlds that had been silent for decades sent envoys to the Terran fleet. On the capital world, Vareth watched his empire fray. His advisors urged negotiation. His generals urged annihilation. But deep inside, he knew neither would work. The humans had done something no other enemy had managed. They had made the Council look weak. And weakness in the galaxy was blood in the water. Kane understood it too. That's why he didn't rush for the kill. Instead, he tightened the noose. Terran ships cut trade lanes, not by destroying them, but by offering safer, faster routes under human protection. Council law collapsed in places where it had ruled for centuries, replaced by new alliances that owed nothing to Vareth. But Kane also knew the danger. Power invited corruption, even for those who fought against it. Some of the new allies were eager to use Terran's strength for their own ambitions. The voice from the Gift whispered to him in the quiet moments, "Be careful. A liberator can become a conqueror without meaning to." Holt saw it too. "We're winning," she told Kane one night, "but we're changing. The question is, into what?" There was no easy answer. In the shadows of the Black Reaches, Terran engineers worked on something pulled from the Gift's deepest vaults. A ship unlike any other, capable of slipping past the most fortified worlds without leaving a trace. It was meant for one purpose: to end the war in a single, decisive strike. The target was not a fleet, not a fortress. It was Vareth himself. The ship they had built from the Gift's designs was unlike anything in the Terran fleet. It did not gleam like a warship. It did not hum with the deep growl of engines. It moved like a shadow, bending light around itself, slipping between sensor sweeps as if it was part of the void. Only a handful of people even knew it existed. Kane called it the Phantom. The mission was simple on paper, impossible in practice. Reach the heart of the Council's capital, take Vareth alive, and force the surrender of the Galactic Council. There would be no second attempt. The Phantom slid through the outer defenses without a whisper. Stations passed by without alarms. Patrols drifted close enough to see through their viewports. But their eyes never found it. The city world below glowed with millions of lights, its towers piercing the clouds like silver spears. On the bridge, Holt studied the landing coordinates. If we set down here, she said, pointing to an industrial sector, we can get into the transit lines and be at the council hall in under 20 minutes. Kane nodded. No open fights. We move like we belong here. They disembarked in silence, cloaks pulled over their armor. The streets of the capital were alive with activity, merchants shouting, aircars humming overhead, holograms flashing with news of council proclamations. None mentioned the war. The council was pretending it wasn't happening, moving through the crowded streets. Kane could feel the tension under the surface. People glanced over their shoulders more than they should. Patrols walked faster than normal. The empire was rotting, even here. The transit lines carried them straight to the shadow of the council hall. The building was a mountain of silver and glass, its central spire vanishing into the clouds. Guards in ceremonial armor stood at every entrance. The team moved toward a side service entrance, their forged credentials passing them through checkpoints without question. Inside, the air was colder, the walls lined with banners of the council's member species. Kane noticed some were missing. They reached the lift to the upper chambers. Holt glanced at him. Last chance to walk away. Not today, Kane said. The lift opened into the council's private gallery, a high-ceilinged room overlooking the grand chamber below. And there, standing alone before a wide window, was Vareth. He didn't turn when Kane entered. I wondered when you would come. Kane stepped forward, his team fanning out silently. Then you know why I'm here. Vareth finally faced him, his silver eyes sharp but tired. To kill me? To drag me through your courts as I did to your people? To end this, Kane said. The galaxy doesn't need you anymore. Vareth gave a small, humorless smile. And it needs you. You think you can hold this galaxy together? You think you can fight the chaos that will come if I fall? I don't plan to hold it together. Kane replied. I plan to let it choose for itself. Something flickered in Vareth's eyes. Not fear, but recognition. You're more dangerous than I thought. You don't want to replace the council. You want to destroy the idea of the council. Before Kane could answer, alarms blared. Holt's voice was in his ear. We've been spotted. Elite guard incoming. Vareth's expression hardened. You won't leave this building alive. The doors burst open. The elite guard poured in, their weapons spitting arcs of plasma. The Terran team moved like ghosts, their alien-forged shields catching the blasts. Their fire surgical and precise. Kane didn't shoot Vareth. Instead, he stepped in close, his sidearm steady. You're coming with us. The guards fought harder, but they weren't prepared for the Phantom. The ship's AI had linked to Kane's comms, projecting false positions and images into the enemy's helmets. The guards fired at phantoms that didn't exist while the real Terrans cut a path out. They reached the landing zone under a rain of fire. The Phantom's hatch opened, its hull shimmering as it swallowed the team inside. In moments, they were airborne, the capital shrinking beneath them. Vareth sat in silence, hands bound, his eyes never leaving Kane. You've won a battle, he said quietly, but you have no idea what comes after. The galaxy will not simply thank you and live in peace. Maybe not, Kane said, but it won't live in fear of you anymore. When the Phantom returned to the Terran fleet, the sight of Vareth walking down the ramp sent a shockwave through the galaxy. Every broadcast carried the image. The once untouchable leader of the council in Terran custody. Some worlds celebrated openly, others hesitated, waiting to see what would replace the old order. Kane gave them no easy answers, standing before the gathered leaders of the growing alliance. He spoke plainly. We didn't fight to build a new empire. We fought so. No one could tell us where we may live, who we may be. The council is finished. The rest is up to you. The crowd erupted in voices, some cheering, some shouting questions, some already arguing about what came next. Kane didn't try to quiet them. That noise was freedom. Later, alone on the Resolute's observation deck, Holt joined him. It's over, she said. Kane shook his head. No, it's just begun. But at least now it's theirs to decide. Far away, in the dark reaches where stars were scarce, the gift drifted, its alien voice silent, watching, waiting. And humanity, once thrown into exile, now stood not just among the stars, they shaped them.